Hello everyone, my name is Emir, and today we're going to have a presentation about my essay called Student Movement in and Their Role in Modern Era. So the definition of college student according to Oxford means nouns for someone who studies at school, college, or university. Often perceived as an educated person, a student is expected to have higher understanding and thought of the problems that occurs around him and act rationally to solve these problems. College student itself hold a special meaning in Indonesian language in which they are called mahasiswa. Maha means mighty or great, and siswa means student. So college student in Indonesia actually hold a much more special meaning in which related to the exclusivism and the colonialism that happens around the early 20th century, in which only privileged people can become a college student. That's why they are perceived as a special people in Indonesian people compared to many other cultures in the world. And that's why they are called mahasiswa. So let's start with the story of student movement to find out why they are important for Indonesian people. We started in National Awakening of Indonesia in the early 20th century, and in which peak in the Youth Pledge Conference or the Youth Pledge Declaration or Sumpah Pemuda. So this is actually the first recorded history of Indonesia that involved college student and educated person. So this is actually the first act that shows what impact can a college student brings to a society or to a nation. And it leads to the Youth Peace Declaration, in which a lot of student organizations that comes from many different backgrounds and many different cultures, such as Young Java, Young Sumatra, and all the things unite and pledge themselves as one or as a nationalist under one nationalism that is Indonesia. So the difference between National Awakening and other times, other struggle is the fact that it involves figures from educated or academic background compared to royalty or military that happens in the previous era. So this is actually the era in which college students actually led the struggle for Indonesian independence. And it suddenly represent the tribe and homeland to unite as one nation, that is Indonesia. And we now move to the uprising of Indonesia Communist Party, or PKI, started out in 1950 and ended in 1965. At this point, the weapon that are used in the war are ideologies and thoughts. So we're actually trying to get the voice of the masses itself. So at this point in time, there are three main ideologies in Indonesia that many organizations hold. There is nationalist, communist, or religionists. At the time, nationalist and religious student organization unites to stop PKI influence. So organizations like GMKI, HMI, and all the things unite to fight this movement that is much more dangerous and much more aggressive compared to the other. It ends up in the G30 PKI or the 30 September movement of PKI and ended up in their doing mass killing and coup. And PKI failed to influence most of Indonesian. So even though they successfully killed a lot of Indonesian generals, they still failed to actually make hold of Indonesian people. Why? Because of the movement that are made by nationalist and religious students itself, such as Jaime and all the things. And then the fall of New Order and the start of Reformation. So the reform agenda brought by students in 1998 focused on the failure of the government to prosper the people. This actually started out in the monetary crisis that happens in 1997 and led up to many protests and looting that happens around Indonesia. So democracy and freedom were severely limited in New Order compared to nowadays. So one of the main events that happens in the Reformation movement is in 12 May 1998, in which 6 students from Trisakti University died during the protest, and many human rights cases remain unsolved to this day. This is the Kamisan movement, a movement that called a protest to the human rights cases that are still violated to this day. A lot of human rights, such as the Wiji Tukul, Marsina, and students that actually died in the 1998 protests and all other things. And it leads up to the resignation of President Suharto on May 21, 1998. This is the final day, one of the final day of the protest, in which college student actually managed to take hold of the DPR building. So what is our role as a college student? This is the major forces of society: civil society, corporation, and government. So society consists of the public, the masses, and the common people. Corporation consists of the conglomerates and the big corporation, and government consists of the government itself. Each of these forces has their own bargaining power, such as government with their police and officials and military, corporation with their money, and civil society with the numbers. The problem with civil society is why they become victim to many of the policy made by government or corporation is the fact that they don't have adequate knowledge to actually know what is wrong around them, and they don't have a unifying figure to actually unite them as one voice. That is where the role of college student happens as the spearhead of the civil society. We can educate the people to actually help them understand more about the problem that actually occurs around them, and criticize the corporation for the government for the things that they are doing wrong, and give them solution to the problem itself. Talking about present time issues. So compared to the other, we now in the modern era face a much more complex. I'm going to check the audio first, sorry. Halo, halo. Halo, halo. Tes 1, 2, 3. Okay. Compared to the previous era, we now have a much more complex issue, which start in environmental with the global warming, foreign ideologies that are actually threatening in the long run. The government failures in many aspects. One of them is still human rights cases that remains unsolved, and finally the economy. It is very fragile and subject to corruption and many other things that the government are doing wrong. But in this present time, there is one weapon that we can use, that is digitalization, in which it helps to push people aspiration to the government and educate society by providing relevant and quality information. So what is students' role in modern era? There are 3 things that we can do. We can raise campaign to help those in need, and then educate people to prevent problem from actually happening, and criticize the government or the corporation with valid solution to criticize the problem. But to prepare themselves for any problems that will arise,